I've summed up my 10 takeaways and thoughts about this book in this video. I highly recommend you to read the original book of the author. More Than You Know is a fascinating book by Michael Mauboussin that takes a deep dive into the world of investing and decision-making. The book is divided into 3 sections: the psychology of human misjudgment, investment philosophy, and investment strategies. In the first section, Mauboussin explores the cognitive biases and psychological traps that can lead investors astray. He uses numerous examples to illustrate the ways in which our brains can play tricks on us and cause us to make irrational decisions. He also provides insights into how to recognize these biases and avoid falling victim to them. The second section of the book delves into investment philosophy, examining the principles that underpin successful investing. Mauboussin argues that successful investors need to focus on the long term and on fundamental factors, rather than short-term fluctuations and market trends. He also emphasizes the importance of humility and intellectual honesty, as well as the need to have a clear framework for making decisions. In the final section of the book, Mauboussin provides practical strategies for putting these principles into action. He discusses topics such as portfolio construction, risk management, and the importance of diversification. He also provides a number of useful tools and frameworks for analyzing investment opportunities and making informed decisions. Throughout the book, Mauboussin draws on insights from a wide range of fields, including psychology, economics, and finance. He uses real-world examples to illustrate his points, and he writes in a clear and engaging style that makes even complex ideas easy to understand. Overall, More Than You Know is an insightful and thought-provoking book that offers valuable lessons for investors and decision-makers in all walks. When it comes to investing, it's not enough to simply analyze numbers and data. Successful investors also need to understand human psychology and behavior. This is because human biases and emotions can often lead to irrational decision-making, especially in times of stress or uncertainty. For example, many investors may be tempted to panic and sell off their assets during a market downturn, even if it goes against their long-term investment strategy. Others may be overly optimistic about a particular investment, leading them to take on too much risk without properly assessing potential downsides. By understanding the ways in which our brains can play tricks on us, investors can develop strategies to avoid common cognitive biases and make more informed decisions. This might involve things like setting clear investment goals, diversifying their portfolios, and developing a disciplined approach to risk management. Overall, the point is that investing is not just about crunching numbers and analyzing data, it's also about understanding human behavior and psychology. By doing so, investors can improve their chances of success and avoid some of the pitfalls that can trip up even the most experienced market analysts. Point 2 of More Than You Know highlights the importance of being aware of cognitive biases in order to make informed investment decisions. Cognitive biases refer to the ways in which our brains process information and make decisions based on factors beyond the purely rational. For example, confirmation bias is a common cognitive bias where people tend to seek out information that confirms their pre-existing beliefs and ignore evidence that contradicts them. In the context of investing, this can lead to investors making decisions based on incomplete or biased information, rather than a full and objective analysis. Another example is the availability bias, where people tend to give more weight to information that is easily available or memorable, even if it's not necessarily the most relevant or accurate information. This can lead investors to make decisions based on trends or events that have recently captured headlines, rather than on more fundamental factors like earnings reports or long-term market trends. To avoid these and other cognitive biases, investors can employ a number of strategies, such as seeking out diverse viewpoints and information sources, and using checklists or other decision-making frameworks to help structure their thinking. It's also important to be mindful of one's own biases and to be willing to question one's own assumptions and beliefs. Overall, Understanding cognitive biases is an important part of becoming a successful investor, as it can help individuals avoid making decisions based on incomplete or biased information and make more informed choices based on a full and objective analysis of the relevant factors. Point 3 of More Than You Know emphasizes the importance of focusing on the long term and on fundamental factors, rather than on short-term market fluctuations and trends. This is because short-term market movements can often be driven by emotion and speculation, rather than by underlying factors like a company's financial performance or economic trends. Investors who focus on the long term tend to have a more disciplined and patient approach to investing, which can help them ride out short-term volatility and achieve greater returns over time. They also tend to place greater emphasis on fundamental analysis, which involves assessing a company's financial statements, management team, competitive positioning, and other key factors that can affect its long-term prospects. In contrast, investors who focus on short-term trends or market movements may be more susceptible to emotion-driven decision-making and may miss out on opportunities for long-term growth. Of course, this doesn't mean that short-term market movements are completely irrelevant to investing. It's important to keep an eye on market trends and events that may impact one's investments. However, these factors should be viewed in the context of a long-term investment strategy, rather than as the sole drivers of investment decisions. Overall, the point is that successful investing requires a focus on the long term and on fundamental factors that are likely to drive sustainable growth over time. By doing so, investors can avoid the pitfalls of short-term market volatility and achieve greater returns over the long run. Point 4 of More Than You Know highlights the importance of humility and intellectual honesty in investing. This means being willing to recognize and admit to one's own mistakes and limitations, and to be open to learning from others and from new information. Humility is important because it can help investors avoid the pitfalls of overconfidence, which can lead to reckless decision-making and taking on too much risk. By recognizing that one's own judgments and beliefs may be fallible, investors can be more careful in their decision-making and seek out diverse viewpoints and information sources to help balance their own biases and blind spots. Intellectual honesty is also crucial because it requires investors to be truthful and objective in their assessments of the companies and investments they are considering. This means being willing to question one's own assumptions and beliefs, and to consider alternative viewpoints and evidence. By combining humility and intellectual honesty, investors can develop a more disciplined and rational approach to investing. This can help them make more informed decisions and avoid costly mistakes that can arise from overconfidence or a lack of critical thinking. Overall, the point is that investing requires not only analytical skills and knowledge of financial markets, but also a willingness to recognize one's own limitations and to approach investment decisions with humility and intellectual honesty. By doing so, investors can be more disciplined and objective in their decision-making, and increase their chances of success over the long run. Point 5 of More Than You Know stresses the importance of diversification in managing risk and maximizing returns in a portfolio. Diversification refers to the practice of spreading investments across multiple assets, industries, and regions in order to reduce exposure to any one particular risk. By diversifying their portfolios, investors can reduce the risk of significant losses due to events that affect a particular asset or industry. For example, if an investor has all their money invested in a single company or industry, they may be at risk if that company or industry experiences significant challenges or downturns. However, by diversifying their portfolio across multiple companies and industries, investors can spread their risk and reduce the impact of any one particular event. Diversification can also help investors capture a broader range of returns across different asset classes, rather than relying on any one particular asset class to drive returns. For example, a portfolio that includes a mix of stocks, bonds, and other assets may perform better over the long term than a portfolio that is heavily concentrated in a single asset class. Of course, Diversification does not guarantee returns or protect against losses, and it may not be appropriate for all investors or in all circumstances. However, for most investors, it is an important strategy to consider in managing risk and achieving long-term investment goals. Overall, the point is that diversification is a key strategy in managing risk and maximizing returns in a portfolio. By spreading investments across multiple assets, industries, and regions, investors can reduce the impact of any one particular risk and capture a broader range of returns over the long term. Point 6 of More Than You Know emphasizes the importance of having a clear framework for making investment decisions, rather than relying on gut instincts or emotion. A clear framework can help investors avoid making decisions based on incomplete or biased information, and can help ensure that decisions are based on a thoughtful and disciplined approach. A framework can include a number of different factors, such as an understanding of a company's financial statements, an assessment of the competitive landscape, and an analysis of economic trends and other macro factors that may impact the company or industry. The framework should also consider risk factors, such as potential legal or regulatory issues, as well as factors like management quality and track record. By developing a clear framework, investors can avoid getting swept up in short-term market trends or speculation, and can focus on the factors that are most likely to drive long-term returns. A framework can also help investors avoid common cognitive biases, such as confirmation bias, by providing a structured and objective approach to decision-making. It's also important for investors to regularly review and update their framework as new information becomes available. This can help ensure that the framework remains relevant and effective over time, and can help investors adapt to changing market conditions and other factors that may impact their investments. Overall, the point is that having a clear framework for making investment decisions is an essential part of successful investing. By developing a structured and disciplined approach to decision-making, investors can avoid common pitfalls and make more informed decisions based on a full and objective analysis of the relevant factors. Point 7 of More Than You Know suggests that market efficiency is not a given, and that it's possible to find undervalued assets through careful analysis and research. The idea of market efficiency is that prices reflect all available information, and that it is therefore impossible to consistently beat the market over the long term. However, many investors believe that market efficiency is not always perfect, and that it is possible to find opportunities for undervalued assets through careful analysis and research. For example, an investor may find a company that has strong fundamentals and is undervalued by the market due to short-term factors like negative news or market trends. Of course, identifying undervalued assets requires a significant amount of research and analysis, as well as an understanding of the market and industry trends. Investors must be willing to do their due diligence and assess a wide range of factors, including financial statements, management quality, competitive positioning, and other key indicators. Investors must also be willing to take a long-term approach to investing, as undervalued assets may take time to appreciate in value and may experience short-term volatility along the way. Overall, the point is that it is possible to find undervalued assets in the market through careful analysis and research. While market efficiency may be a general tendency, it is not always perfect, and investors who are willing to put in the work can potentially achieve above-average returns over the long term. Point 8 of More Than You Know stresses the importance of recognizing and managing risk in investing. Investing always involves some degree of risk, whether it's the risk of losing money on an investment or the risk of missing out on potential returns. Effective risk management involves identifying and assessing the different types of risks that may impact an investment, and developing strategies to mitigate those risks. Some common types of risks include market risk, which refers to the risk of losses due to general market movements, credit risk, which refers to the risk of losses due to a borrower defaulting on a loan or bond, and operational risk, which refers to the risk of losses due to events like fraud or system failures. Investors can manage risk in a number of different ways, such as through diversification, hedging, or setting stop-loss orders to limit potential losses. It's also important for investors to regularly monitor their investments and adjust their strategies as needed in response to changing market conditions or other factors that may impact their investments. It's worth noting that managing risk does not necessarily mean avoiding risk altogether. In fact, taking on some degree of risk is often necessary in order to achieve higher returns over the long term. However, effective risk management can help investors reduce the impact of potential losses and increase their chances of achieving their investment goals. Overall, the point is that recognizing and managing risk is an essential part of successful investing. By identifying the different types of risks that may impact an investment and developing strategies to mitigate those risks, investors can be more disciplined and effective in their decision-making and increase their chances of achieving their investment objectives. Point 9 of More Than You Know emphasizes the value of behavioral economics in understanding how people make decisions and how that knowledge can be applied to improve investment strategies. Behavioral economics is the study of how psychological, social, and emotional factors influence economic decisions. One of the key insights from behavioral economics is that people often make decisions that are not strictly rational or logical, but are instead influenced by factors like emotions, biases, and social norms. For example, people may be more likely to invest in a company if they have a personal connection to it, even if there is no objective reason to believe it is a good investment. By understanding these behavioral factors, investors can develop strategies to improve decision-making and avoid common cognitive biases that may lead to poor investment decisions. This might involve things like developing a decision-making framework that accounts for cognitive biases, using checklists, or other tools to help structure thinking, or seeking out diverse viewpoints and information sources to help balance biases and blind spots. Behavioral economics can also provide valuable insights into market trends and dynamics. For example, by analyzing patterns in investor behavior, researchers can identify potential market inefficiencies or mispricings that can be exploited for investment purposes. Overall, the point is that behavioral economics can offer valuable insights into the ways in which people make decisions and how to use that knowledge to improve investment strategies. By understanding the cognitive biases and other behavioral factors that influence decision-making, investors can make more informed and effective investment decisions and increase their chances of achieving their investment goals. Point 10 of More Than You Know highlights the importance of continually learning and adapting in the ever-changing landscape of investing. Investing is a dynamic field, and new technologies, market trends, and economic conditions can all impact investment strategies and outcomes. In order to stay ahead of the curve, investors must be willing to continually learn and adapt. This might involve things like staying up to date on the latest research and trends, seeking out diverse viewpoints and information sources, and being willing to question one's own assumptions and beliefs. Investors must also be willing to adapt their strategies as market conditions change. For example, if there is a sudden shift in economic conditions or market trends, investors may need to adjust their portfolios or investment strategies to account for these changes. In addition, it's important for investors to be willing to learn from their mistakes and to continuously improve their decision-making processes. This might involve conducting post-mortem analyses of investment decisions to identify areas for improvement, seeking out feedback from others, and developing a disciplined and structured approach to decision-making. Overall, the point is that investing requires a willingness to continually learn and adapt in response to changing market conditions and trends. By staying up to date on the latest research and trends, being willing to adapt one's strategies, and continuously improving one's decision-making processes, investors can increase their chances of success over the long run. Thank you for your interest in this book. Please leave your feedback on these thoughts in the comments below, or just put a like on this video. It will help me stay motivated and make more videos like this. In the description of this video, you may find links where you can purchase this book.